Save me from this awful mist. Let me come up and feel your kiss. I hope that I'm prepared for this, because I feel that I am being pulled up towards the sky. I'm learning how it feels to fly. I'm learning I will never die. Not so bad down there. I am feeling an awful tear, like a paper in the salty air. Over the shining sea, my friends are waiting there for me, all smiling so patiently. Oh, can't you see I need to go back? I need to go back. It's good to be back.
You are now listening to The Strange and the Weird with your host, Stefanos Saganakis. On today's show, we'll be talking about location and its influence in horror stories. Strange fact of the day. Did you know there's actually 45 miles worth of nerve endings on your skin? Now welcome to the darkness. Hey guys, I'm Stefanos Saganakis, and you're listening to The Strange and the Weird. I hope you all had a good winter break. I know I did. It was very enjoyable. I apologize for any of the noise in the background. We have a swing club now, and that's during my show. Anyways, I always play this song before the show starts, so I'm just going to give them a quick shout out. There's a band called All Over the Place, and that's the song you keep hearing before I come on. It's sort of like my call. It's called Mothership. It's by All Over the Place. If you want to see them, you can visit them on facebook.com/All Over the Place Band. Really great band. I love them. That's about it. It's sort of like my little theme song for the show, so I wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out. Anyways, as I said, I'm going to be talking about location and horror. And it sort of seems obvious to a point of what should be scary and what shouldn't be scary, which is actually a very big difference of what is scary and what should be scary. A lot of people think what should be scary isn't scary, and what is scary shouldn't be scary. And I completely agree with that. I'll give you an example. We're going to be talking about Paranormal Activity. And Paranormal Activity, not my personal favorite movie, nowhere near it. But the reason why it was so scary, in my opinion, to most people, was that Paranormal Activity was actually filmed in a bedroom. And where do you go to hide when you're a kid? Where do you go to hide from all the monsters? You go to your bedroom. So you're not there just sort of waiting for everything in the room when you get scared. No, you run to your bedroom, you get in your bed, and you cover up and get nice, warm, and snuggly with your pillow pet or something. And that's what I think scared people with Paranormal Activity, not what actually happened, the location. And that's what inspired me to make this show now. If you guys want to call in and tell me what was If you'll tell me what is your favorite location for a horror story, please call in at 386-822-8770. One more time, the number is 386-822-8770. And make sure to tell me what is your favorite place for a horror film, and if you've had any scary experiences, where were they, and how did the atmosphere affect you? So let's go on with the basics right now. And this is a very, very common place for anything scary. The forest. And you can see this in a lot of things like Slender Man. You can see this in things like, it's a movie called The Village. I've mentioned The Village several times before. But in general, the forest is a very, very scary place when you come talking about horror. Because you're going around, and there's a lot of trees. And even though trees are amazing by themselves, not exactly the best when you're being chased by Slender Man or some guys in red raincoats that look like porcupines. So, what exactly is it about the forest that scares us? I think the thing that scares us the most about the forest has to be the fact that we can't see anything past the tree we're seeing. You sort of get that? We have a very limited field of vision when it comes to the forest. We have nothing to see past the trees. We have nothing to know what's behind us. It's just covered everywhere. And the knowledge, this is where I go a lot with fears. It's the knowledge of not knowing what's going to happen, what's going to occur there. It was just brought up to me. Even Hansel and Gretel was in the forest. A lot of stories that are scary are in forests, and that's something that's very cliche. And to me, it's sort of worn off when you think about the forest, because the forest is so basic when you think about it. And there's a lot of things that, just like the forest, are used in horrors. For example, let's go to SCP Containment Breach. It's another game. You're playing in a factory. Not a factory, sort of like a laboratory. Another stereotypical place, like Resident Evil. You're in the laboratory. There's rooms. You can't see anything past your walls. You can only see through the glass, and that's if you're lucky enough to have the glass with you. The glass window's there. So that means that the lack of vision is actually what scares you, not per se the actual scaredness. Because imagine if you just saw let's say, zombies coming in from a mile away on a desert. Would you be as scared? I wouldn't imagine you'd be as scared. I would imagine I'd be as scared. I mean, I just see them and go, boop, take a shot at them with my gun or rifle, whatever it is. But I really don't think that if you apply certain situations to a larger field, they'll be as scary. If you put the Weeping Angels, let's go to Doctor Who. I know a lot of you guys out there are Whovians. Let's go to Doctor Who for one moment. Let's talk about the Weeping Angels. Each time we see the Weeping Angels, it's in a nice and closed, confined area. New York, London, we have the caves, the caverns, and that should be it for the Weeping Angels. Yeah, that's it for the Weeping Angels. Oh, and the forest on the latest one. See the forest, one more time, the forest. But each and every single one of those, the Weeping Angels, besides the fact that you couldn't see them move, you just couldn't see them because there's so many obstructions in the way. Everything was blocked. You couldn't see anything, and then bam, the Weeping Angel would be right in front of you, and you'd have no idea what to do. And think about it. New York, a very crowded place. Somehow the Statue of Liberty moved. I don't know who's not looking at that thing, but somehow Statue of Liberty was able to move. That's how crowded it was. Somehow the Angels in Central Park were able to move because it was so crowded and no one could see them when they moved. And I think that's what scares people about a lot of situations there. It's the fact that you can't see them. So let's say you were to apply that logic to another scenario, and let's put this in the desert now. This is also a very common place for horror. Let's talk Alan Wake at this point. Alan Wake is a horror that you go to Night Springs, or not Night Springs, my apologies. You go to, I forgot what it's called. Actually, it's not even in the, my apologies. The second one is in the desert, and that is Night Springs. You go to the desert, and it's pretty wide and open. But but it's still scary. But why is it so scary? They have the dark. And the dark, once again, is something that obscures your vision. And I think it's all a visual thing. I think that's why we're so scared of the different scenarios. So when we're talking about the desert, most things in the desert are dark when you come to horror. And that's going to be an example of the Alan Wake All-American Horror. And when he's going throughout the thing, the entire game is based off of darkness and light. The more light you have, basically the safer you are. In comparison to the more dark you have, the more danger you're in. And I think once again, it's always about the vision. Once you get out of there, though, once you start getting into the day with the desert, why is it still scary? Because there are a few movies out there that have the desert as just a general area for fear. Let's talk Resident Evil, for example. The movie, I believe, is the fourth one, took place in the desert. And in the desert, it was simple. It was just wide expanse of nothing in the day. And you're still like, oh my god, something's going to happen, something's going to freak me out. It's going to scare me. And it probably will scare you. I'm not going to deny that. And I know sometimes I got scared in that movie. So what is it about the desert that scares you? I think what it is at that point is not your lack of vision, but the lack of activity. And hear me out on this. If we were to sit in one area with absolutely nothing happening, what would you do? Think about that. What would you do if nothing were happening? It's always about the environment. And if the environment has nothing happening in it, especially in the desert or someplace like that, you start getting worried. Something's supposed to happen is what you're going to be thinking. Or I have to do something is what you're going to be thinking. So when you're looking around, you want something to happen, but you can't do it. You start sort of fooling yourself in your own head to think something's supposed to happen. If there's actually a room, someone made a room where it was the most quiet room in the world, and it's actually -9 decibels. It's so quiet you could hear your blood flowing. But due to the lack of activity in that room, due to the lack of noise, due to the lack of stimulation, people have hallucinated and gone insane until they're taken out and sort of restrained for a little bit in that room, because there's so little activity and your mind needs activity. So I think that's what scares us about the desert, is the activity. And that's the same thing with the tundra. When we go into the tundra, you could think about The Thing from outer space. I'm pretty sure you all know about The Thing from outer space. That was a great movie in the 80s, and I think the original was in the 60s, where this thing from outer space came down and could take form of anyone is sort of touched. And that was set in the Arctic tundra in a base. I believe it was a Swedish base, American base. The prequel was a Swedish base. And when you have this base sort of being taken over by the Thing, you can't really say that you don't know where it is, because you know where it is. You don't know who it is, but you know where it is, because you can see where it goes. You know where it goes, because there's only one place for it to go, and that's the base. But why is it so scary? Why is just the tundra so scary? Because of the lack of stimulation, I think. There's nothing out in the tundra. Nothing's supposed to happen. And you trick your mind into thinking something's going to happen. And then when something does happen, like, for example, The Thing, it freaks you out because it's not supposed to happen. It's all like mental mind games at that point. I'm hoping you guys are keeping up. If you're not keeping up, feel free to call me at 386-822-8770. Or just add in your own little piece of conversation to the show. I just got a few words from my friend Paul, who was talking about the desert. He's saying that he's from the military. God bless you, Paul. He's talking about the desert will be very scary because of how often it shifts and how often you could get lost in it. The only thing that's in the desert that can actually help you is the stars, since it always has clear nights. But let me see what it says. Yeah, but that's a very specialized skill that he says that almost nobody possesses. which I'm surprised. I would expect a lot of people to be able to read the stars, but the fact that he brings up a really good point. You could really get lost in the desert. You could get lost in the tundra really easily. Places like that, places that are so wide open, you could get lost easily, and that's something else that might bring a little bit of fear into your mind. How easily can you get lost in a forest in comparison to a desert? You might be able to get lost in a forest, but at least you'll be able to get your bearings, because you'll be able to make marks. For example, no breadcrumbs. That's a bad idea. Don't use breadcrumbs, guys. Let's say you mark a tree with a pocket knife you have, or let's say there's a big old boulder right in the middle. You'll be able to tell in general where you're going as long as you make the marks. You won't be able to see much ahead of you, and even the Mythbusters are able to prove it. If you go in right degree angles, 90-degree angles each turn, and every turn you do, you will be able to make it all the way in one direction. Otherwise, if you do normal turns, like, oh, I'm going to take a little bit of a left here, a little bit of a right here, you're going to get lost. And that's what the Mythbusters did. The Mythbusters did it blindfolded and in a forest, and they're able to go in a nice straight line in comparison to what they did when they weren't blindfolded, when they weren't doing the right angle turns. So that's a little bit of survival for you guys. Do right angle turns. That's going to help you out when you're lost in the forest. Make you go in one direction. So I think that the expansive of nothingness, and I like the fact, thank you very much, Paul, for bringing that up, the fact that you could get easily lost in the desert, in the tundra, is a nice way of getting scared there. And I think also, one more thing about the desert and the tundra that gets you scared is the extremes it goes through. The tundra has one extreme, and that is cold. It's very, very cold. So if you're not prepared, it's not going to be well for you. I know two of my friends went to the Appalachian Trail this winter break, and on the first night, the jet stream, the polar jet stream, actually pinched off from the pole and came down to South Florida. As you guys probably remember that day, it was in the 30s. And they got it too up in North Carolina in the Appalachian Trail. And the first night, they got hypothermia, which they actually had to call a friend to pick them up that lived 45 minutes away. So I'm glad they were able to do that, but the extremity of the weather in places cold like that, well, that's North Carolina, but in general, in places that are cold, that have snow, or in the tundra that have a lot of snow and ice, I think scare us because we don't know how to deal with that. People hear, oh yeah, make an igloo. And making an igloo is good because it's 60 degrees inside. It's a solid 60 degrees if you make it right and insulated. But we don't know how to make an igloo. People aren't exactly that versatile most of the time. And people actually think that having no pain, hear me out on this, having no pain is a good thing. When in all reality, let's say you have your feet in the snow, for example, and you feel no pain, that's a bad sign because your feet are going numb and they're going cold. If you bring your feet out of the snow and you feel pain, that's a good thing because your feet are warming up to a general degree. That is very good for your body. And the desert now, besides the tundra, which I just said, has one extreme that's cold. The desert has two extremes: blazing hot and freezing cold. And the desert life has brilliantly adapted to this desert life. We aren't desert life, guys. I'm sorry to tell you, we are not desert life. But the desert, besides the shifting sands and the roaring heat in the middle of the day, at night it gets cold because land warms up and cools down so much faster than the water, and those on the coast will have a more balanced temperature range and a more balanced climate in general. But the desert's right smack dab in the middle of some country or some continent where it has no access to water or very limited access to water, and doesn't have that same temperature regulation that the coast does. So you have those two extremes. They're really hot and they're really cold. And people, when they prepare for the desert, they prepare really hot. And then they think, when it gets to the night, oh my god, this is really cold. And they don't know what to do. And I think the fact that we don't know how to react to that temperature, to that climate, to what's happening at that moment, scares us. To that environment, it scares us. And when you put all that together, I think that a desert and a tundra would make a much better place for a horror story than a forest would. Because of those reasons, a forest or a laboratory. Because forest and laboratories are great and all, but once again, they're very cliche, and there's a lot, I think, there's a lot more survivability to the forest and the laboratory. It may not be true to all situations, but I think in a survival situation by itself, actually the forest would be better. But in a horror situation, when you have zombies, let's say, I think it'd be a lot better to be out in the tundra or the desert than it would be to be in a forest or a laboratory, or versus the Thing. If the Thing got loosed in a city, I would much rather be in a desert or a tundra, and I would rather be in a city, or a different situation like that. But survivability-wise, when you're talking about just plain old survival, I think you definitely want to go to the city for that. That's where you'll survive the best. Or if you're going outside into the environment, the forest, which is once again a very nice place. All right, guys, I'm gonna take a quick old music break, and I'll be right back after that. You guys make sure to keep tuned in, and I'll be back. Alright, guys, I am back. That was People Are Strange by The Doors. If you don't know that song, I have no idea where you've been. I just posted a picture on my Facebook page, www.facebook.com/The Stange and the Weird. I made a misspelling on strange, and it's The Stange and the Weird. I can't fix it without paying $20 to Facebook, and I really don't want to pay $20 to Facebook. So /The Stange and the Weird for a strange and weird name. I think I'd like that. I posted a picture of the Norwegian base camp, which you could obviously see there isn't many places to hide except inside the base camp in the Thing. And I think that's one of the best things about the horror, that there's not many places to hide, and it could be anywhere and everywhere at the same time. And with the Thing, any one at the same time. Alright, guys. I'm going to tell you the truth, though. Those places, the desert and tundra, they're scary. But I think there's one place that topped it off in the scarometer for me. And I remember a long time ago, I watched this movie. I think it was probably around 2007. I had never actually seen the movie for its entirety. So when I watched it, I remember looking around in that scenery, and I was scared. I'm like, "Hey, Dad, what movie is this?" And he goes, "Oh, this is Resident Evil, son." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Unbeknownst to me, in 2013, I'd watched the movie again with my college mates, and the movie was Serenity. It was a Firefly movie made in 2005, and that was definitely not Resident Evil. I promise you that was not Resident Evil, because this scenery was a lot more scary than anything Resident Evil has provided me, and this scenery is a lot more scary, at least in the beginning, than anything ever provided to me in a horror movie or game. The scenery was so simple. It was a city. But don't think about it just like a city. Don't think about New York City. No, that wasn't it. If it was New York City, it wouldn't have been scary. Hence me not really caring for the Weeping Angels episode when they were in New York. I didn't really care for it because it wasn't that scary. It was a city so sterile, so hospital-like. It was sci-fi city. It was like that classic utopian city. White walls, chrome things here, glass everywhere. It seemed to be everyone was like an open person. It seemed like it was a utopia. But here's the thing that really scared me, and I think this scares everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean all of you listening in right now. I think you'll be scared of this. And it's the fact that there was no one there. The fact that no one was in this giant city called Miranda, in the movie Serenity. The fact that absolutely no one was there, was so scary and bizarre to me. I remember watching the movie my first time back in 2007, and I look and I just think, why is there no one in this city? This is really freaking me out. And in one scene you see like a semi-preserved corpse, like as if it's been not mummified, as if it just been there for a few years type thing. But look, decently preserved. Nothing was disgusting. Nothing was gross. Nothing was the Thing, Resident Evil. Nothing was bloody. No, it was just The city was empty. Every window you looked in, there was nothing. Everything that was there is nothing whatsoever in that city. I mean, come on. How scary is it to think that you walk into a big old city like New York City and there's no one there? Not a dog, not a bird, not a nothing. And you look around, you're sort of saying, what's happening? Why is there no one here? And I think that is the scariest movie situation I've actually been through, because there was simply no one there. It was those 6 guys just walking by, trying to find out this big old mystery happening with Miranda and the Reavers. And there was absolutely no one, and there was absolutely nothing in the city. And it was terrifying for me as a kid, because here I am. I saw The Mummy. Let me get this straight. I saw The Mummy. And when I saw The Mummy and I saw the scare beetles going under that guy's arm, I immediately got a lifetime fear of anything going under my skin. Except for giving blood. I always give blood. So needles I'm fine with. But when I have bugs on my arm, you'll see me. I'll put my hand right a little near the bug, pressing on my skin so that nothing goes under the skin. I know it won't happen. But it's like a little bit of a fear. And that scared me, and it still freaks me out. But this is more scary than that. And that's like that affected my behavior, but I'm just like making sure nothing gets under my skin all the time. But no, that was even scarier than that. The fact that there was absolutely nothing there. Absolutely nothing in that city. And that I think is the scariest situation that you could be in, when there's absolutely nothing there where there's supposed to be something. Alright guys, I talked a lot. I'm not ending it just yet, but I want you guys to call in. This show would be nothing without you guys, so I want you guys to call in at 386-822-8770. I want you to tell me some of the scariest things you've encountered, some of the scariest places you've encountered in movies, in real life, anything. And then I want you, and that's what I want to hear from you guys, alright? Also, I'll say the number one more time, 386-822-8770. I want to apologize one more time for the band in the background, if you could hear them or if you can't. Oh, I could cup the microphone like that. Reduces the noise significantly. Nice. Hold on one second. Oh, hey, we got a caller. Cool. All right, give me one moment, guys. You're on The Strange and Weird of Stefan Saganakis. How can I help you?
Hey, it's Paul.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Pretty good. Hey, I sent you this Facebook message when I heard you telling me about your your opinion of the creepiest location to be in, and it reminds me of a lot of a specific situation we do in training. That we spend a lot of time setting up, and it's supposed to simulate a chemical attack and what a chemical attack on a civilian population would look like.
Training in the military, right, Paul?
Right, for the military. And so what we do is I've monitored, I've run through these situations and I've monitored them and set them up myself. So coming from a setup side, it's really interesting to watch the reaction of the people under you who are actually going through the situation. So what you do is you've got this facility or compound or village, right? And the mission for your men is they're supposed to, link up with the local population and, form a security boundary around them to protect them from hostile forces or something, right?
Yeah.
But what the unknown element is that they'll find is that there was a chemical attack in the city, right? And the city is contaminated, and they need to retreat and get some sort of hazmat unit team around there to fix everything, right? But the local population's dead. They don't know that though. So what we do is we take, I take all the
It sounds like a really bad prank, just to think about it. It sounds like a really bad prank off the bat.
Oh, it is really weird. It's really tough situation. But anyways, I take all my guys who are acting as villagers or whatever, and I take them to the very, very back of the village, and I lay them out. And, I just say, okay, you're unconscious, don't move, don't make any movements for the next hour. And they're real dedicated, so they won't. And I'll position their bodies in, very natural-looking dead poses. This was, taught to me by a ranger instructor, how to make somebody look like they're dead. So, like, for, like, training purposes. So, like, I'll posture them that whole way in the back, like, very, very back of the village or compound or whatever. And then we'll have our guys come through. And they'll come through and they'll all start asking each other, like, where are the people? You know, they'll look through all the buildings and just be like, is this a mistake, like, in the training program? And, like, they'll look to you because, like, I'm monitoring them, so I'm grading them, and I'm just like, nope, there's no mistake, continue training. And they're just like, all right. And you can tell, like, they're starting to anticipate an ambush or something, you know, like, something's not right, this isn't going right. They're really freaked out. And then when they see all the dead bodies, even though they know that those aren't really dead bodies, like, without fail, they'll always ask me, like, freaked out, like, sir, what's that? And I was like, well, what does it look like? Are those like mannequins or dolls? But no, they're not. And like on multiple occasions, someone's asked me literally just, sir, are they okay? Like, are they dead? And it's just like, oh God, like, no, they're not really dead, but it freaks people out. That exact situation you laid out is something that we train for. And like, it is very unsettling, very unnerving, even when you know it's a simulation.
The funny thing is, Paul, when I was watching this movie, the whole thing about this world is that there's Reavers, and these guys are bad guys, sort of like savages, barbarians.
Right.
But the thing was, it was a chemical thing, as you just mentioned. This was basically a chemical experiment on the planet Miranda, where everything was empty. It was. I love how you just showed that there's real life correlation in this movie to the movie, and that's just really cool. I have to say that is really cool to know that you do training that I think literally shows humanity's worst fears right out there.
Because your instincts tell you to look like when there's a dead body, conflict is around it somewhere. Things are broken, things are burned, there's bullet holes, there's blood, you know, like there's some sort of battery on the body. But when you see a pristine body on the ground and nothing around it, it's just instinctually natural. You know that's not how this works. Like, there should be vomit, blood, excrement, you know, like there should be some sort of disturbance around it. But with the chemical attack, that's an unnatural process. So, like, when you see it, it just goes against all your natural instincts, and it is scary.
I agree, and that's what I was talking about before with the lack of stimulation as well, if you think about it like that. With the lack of stimulation, your mind just goes into overdrive, trying to connect things, even if you know what the answer may or may not be. And that's what you find in the movie, and I'm guessing also in your training, that there's just nothing around, and having nothing is worse than having something in a lot of situations.
Right, exactly.
Besides economic situations, obviously, it's just a lot worse to have absolutely nothing to know than it is to have something to know by.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. Well, thanks for having me on the show, man.
Thank you very much, Paul, for calling in.
Yeah, all right, man. I'll see you later.
See you later, man.
Bye.
That was Paul, my friend in the military. Thank you very much for calling in, Paul. Hope you're enjoying the show, and hope everyone else is enjoying the show. Once again, if you want to call in at 386-822-8770. We could talk about what you think is the scariest place. Maybe you think the scariest place is the forest. Maybe you think the scariest place is the school principal office. Ooh, scary. Actually, I'm gonna bring in a little something. Actually, now that I just thought about the school principal office. Okay, I'm gonna bring in a little something about fear at the same time. In a place. I've recently, since I'm doing a geography class, I'm learning the difference between place, location, and space. Right? You have a space, which is, let's say, a country. That's what a country is. A space. My bad. A country is a space. A place would be the United States of America. A location would be the exact longitude and latitude, right? But the difference between place and space is great. So a space could be a river, a place could be the Euphrates River, for example. And the difference with that is that I'm gonna keep getting mixed up between it. That the place actually has a type of significance. and the significance makes it a lot scarier, I think, sometimes. So when you have an office, or you have the principal's office, which are you more scared of to be sent to? Just the office, go to the office and get me some files, or go to the principal's office and get me some files? Which one's more scary, or at least for a teenager, obviously? Or think about it like this. There's rumor that the mansion down Johnson Street is haunted. Go to the haunted mansion, or go to the mansion down there. It's pretty cool. Or just go to the mansion down there. That's pretty cool, so that's sort of skewed it. Go to the mansion or go to the haunted mansion. Which one would be a little more scared of? At least subconsciously, probably the haunted mansion. Because at that point, it's a place, not just a space. And a space is just something general, everything you can do. So if you go to a campsite, let's say you go to a camp, I don't know, any camp you want to go. And when you get to this camp, there's a haunted cabin that you don't know about. So you don't know about the haunted cabin, but you look at the cabin, you're like, hey, look, that looks like a pretty cool cabin. I'm going to go walking in it. At that point, it's just a space for you. It's just a space. So you have no idea what's happening there. Or let's say there's a murder in the cabin, right? 10 years pass, and now they claim it's haunted, quote unquote. You don't know anything about it, so you walk in, and you're like, oh, this is a pretty cool cabin. I wonder why no one's here. Then you walk in, like, hey, did you just walk into that cabin? It's like, yeah, why? That's the guy, that's where, Tim John was murdered 10 years ago. Oh my god, I just walked into a cabin where someone was murdered. And then you never walk into that cabin again. At that point, when you have a space and a place, I think that makes a difference in horror. But at the same time, if you want to think about it, a lot of times a space could be just as scary as a place, and a place could be even more scary than it's a space place. Vice versa. One could be a little more scary than the other, but for different reasons. For example, if you want to go to Alcatraz versus a normal prison, which one would you rather go to? I'd probably say a normal prison. Once again, imagine they're both empty. Would you rather go to Alcatraz or a normal prison? Probably a normal prison. If you weren't going to Alcatraz for the historical value. It just once you give it significance in some way or another, sometimes a place might be a little more scary. And I think that actually has to do a little bit with the horror that we find in places, the horror we find in stories, specifically. We have a mountain of doom versus a mountain. And that also adds a lot of emphasis. Making it a place adds a lot of emphasis to a story and to the reader's emotions when he's reading or she's reading the story and finding out what's happening. And that's, at the same time, very stimulating. At the same time, it sort of takes a little bit away, I think. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think the space or the place is scarier? As I said, the desert could be just as scary as any other place. But at the same time, a haunted cabin might be a little scarier than a random forest. So I want you guys to think about that a little. What places scare you the most? And a lot of times you might actually find, here's what I think sometimes. A lot of times you might find the places that scare you the most are the places you're most comfortable with. And I'm going to go, once again, this is still not the place I think is scary. The place I think is scariest the most was once again Miranda, and I'm not going to switch from that anytime soon. But I'm going to go back to the Paranormal Activity theory right here, because I don't think it was a scary movie per se. I think that the location was scary, as in being the bedroom was scary. I think the scariest place is sometimes when something happens that you're so in a place that you're so comfortable with, in a place that you know that is the throne, your little world of safety under the covers. I think that brings it a lot of fear too, because you have this whole, oh, why am I getting, why is there footprints right outside my door in this haunted, in the place that presume quote unquote haunted, and then you see that little video surveillance of your room and a little flutter. I think at that point, the commonplace, at least in real life, a place you're so familiar with becomes the scariest place for things to actually happen at, rather than going to a place, for example, the haunted cabin, which I don't know why no one ever just leaves the cabin, but going to the haunted cabin that some person is quote unquote haunting and murdering people there. would you just simply leave and walk away, never go back? Versus a place that you are so comfortable with, it's home. Versus home, a place where you know that you should be safe, where you should be okay. I just got in a tip talking about spaces and places, and this is once again from Paul. Thank you, Paul. Some places have reputations which precede them for good reason, because history has happened there and shown what is or could be there already. I think that's actually a very, very good statement there. That's very true. For example, if we're going to talk about Chernobyl was a place, and is a place, full of radiation. I don't think anyone could go there just yet. So no one obviously wants to go there, even if it's hey, we're going to do a tour of Chernobyl, and you're going to be in a 100% safe environment. I think there's a movie about this too. We're going to do a tour of Chernobyl, and you get to see all this really cool history about this place that no one's seen in God knows how long. But you might die from radiation. I don't think anyone will go to Chernobyl because of all the radiation. And now we're talking about the Fukushima incident too. It's like a second Chernobyl in a way. And once you sort of link, I guess we could talk about events too that happen in places. Once you sort of link events to places, that place becomes off limits and becomes scary in its own way. In the opposite situation of your own comfort space becoming scary. Either way, I think there's a good bit of fear in both ways. And I think that each way unsettles us greatly. But once again, my personal favorite way of unsettling someone is just having nothing. It's absolutely horrible to walk into someplace and have absolutely nothing happening there. You can walk into your own room, and if there's nothing that's changed at all, it'll be slightly unsettling. I know when I walk into my room, I expect there to be a smell of something. Like, let's say I put on an air freshener. I expect there to be a freshener smell. I expect there to be some things going on. But if I walk into my room and there's absolutely nothing that's changed, in a way, let me clarify this, because obviously nothing's supposed to change when you're gone. But if nothing has changed in the way that it usually changes, for example, if I forgot the air freshener, my room might smell a little moldy because I have a really crappy Bates Motel room on the side of the street here. But it doesn't happen. It's just sort of like, wait. Usually it happens. Or if I have the sensor on, the sensor's not working. Why isn't the sensor working? Something just sort of goes in your back of your mind, even if just for a second says, this is strange and this is weird. Heck, well, I used the title there. Nice. Alright, guys. I think I'm going to put on one more song for you guys. And then I'm going to probably sign off, alright? It was a little bit of a short show. Once again, it's the first show of the semester. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did. I'll be doing shows every Wednesday, 9 to 10. Before me, my friend Lewis is doing the flux capacitor. He's doing experimental 80s, sort of. And also, I do want to announce one more thing. I decided that I am eventually going to make T-shirts for the Strange and the Weird, and I'm actually very excited for that. T-shirts for the Strange and the Weird. Once I make the T-shirts, I'm going to put them on sale. It's like something like Cafe Press, whatever. Just T-shirts, you buy them, hopefully for cheap, as cheap as I could get them, basically. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one more time, it's going to be a contest. This is for anyone who wants in, but this is going to be an only calling contest for a free T-shirt with my signature on it. I'm going to sign it for you. And if you want a guest host or someone to sign it that you really like, let's say you really liked Matthew Gherkin when he came on, or let's say you really liked Luke Ford when he came on. If you want one of those guys to sign it, I'll get them to sign it as well. But I'm going to make sure to sign that shirt for you. It's going to be a quiz. It's going to be a quiz format where I'm going to ask questions based off all these shows I've had previously, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a hard time remembering them all too. But you have to call in And when you call in, you're going to be on the air answering my questions. If you get all the questions right, or if you get the most questions right out of anyone, you will get a signed shirt by me. If not, you can always go on and buy your own, and then you can bring it to me and I'll sign it for you. Either way, you either get a free shirt or you get a paid shirt, and then I can sign it. Anyways, I'm going to put on the song, and then I'll be on to bid you farewell into the darkness. That was Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash. Anyways, guys, I am signing off for tonight. Remember, I will be having this contest eventually. I don't know when. Once I make the shirts, probably in a month or so. And just make sure to listen in for that. Make sure to listen to all the previous radio shows and try to remember them the best to see who you want, if you want another signature on it, not just mine. And if you'd like us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Strange and the Weird. It's going to say The Strange and Weird on Hatter Radio. Now it's no longer called Stetson Wet Radio. It's called Hatter Radio. I like Stetson Wet Radio a little bit more. Either way, make sure to like us on Facebook. Drop by and make sure to listen in every week, Wednesday, 9 to 10, with your host, Stefanos Sakinakis. Good night, and feel free to venture into the dark.
Yeah, you are my fire.